Hey Jake, how's that article for Terrain Traders coming along?
Good. Making some, not making any progress.
It's blank.
Yeah, I need some help.
All right, so what are we looking at?
I'm having a hard time coming up with words. Honestly, I just don't really like writing. I'm not in the mood, but this is the time slot that I have to write, so I need to get something done. What do you think I should do?
Probably start by just sucking it up. I mean, no, I know.
Try not being such a wuss.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
Like this is actually a really common problem. When someone's new to blogging, it's often really hard to kind of get into it. Oftentimes there's kind of a confidence issue.
Yeah.
People have been blogging a long time, even me. Like, there are a lot of times where I just feel like, I kind of hate this. I don't really want to sit down and write a blog post today. And so I do think there's some really cool stuff that we could talk about that would probably help you quite a bit.
Good.
To start out, I guess I would ask, like, what is it that excites you the most about the topic, about your niche?
Well, it's something that I love doing. If
Yeah.
I could spend more time doing it, I would. So I'm really trying to justify spending all of my time doing this. If I can turn this into an income and make it a big part of what I do, then that's a big goal.
Cool. Well, that's a really good thing. When you have a niche that's super exciting to you, it makes it a lot easier because, frankly, we can just start doing what we call original research, which sounds also really boring. But it's not. When you do research like in school, you're just like, oh, I hate research papers. But what I'm talking about here is basically getting out and doing the thing that you're doing. So with Terrain Traders, it's like off-roading stuff. I know you'll go work on your ATV and stuff, like when it has maintenance problems and stuff. You'll ride, you'll drive around, camp and all that stuff. The first thing is like get out and do things. And while you're doing them, what I like to do is like pick up your phone and just like make a note, or even I'll just like dictate to my phone just to set a reminder or something saying, hey, remind me to add this topic to my hit list. Like if there was an article you already knew you planned to write, but you're like, I don't know what I'm gonna say about it, but idea strikes because you're out doing the thing, then I'll just, again, like it's an iPhone, so I just hold down the key and just talk to it, and Siri just makes notes of whatever. And I'll say, hey, remind me to write about this. Yeah, remind me when I'm packing up the ATV after this trip to get some video clips so that I can use that in content later. All that kind of stuff is gonna make the writing way easier because now you have just like all these ideas that actually tie to things you were doing. And it justifies you getting to do that stuff.
Well, that's brilliant, because that's when I come up with the ideas that I think would be worth sharing with the community.
Yeah.
That's when I come into instances where I don't know this, I have a hard time finding information online, at least easy to digest information. Sometimes I'll find answers in forums, but I gotta dig through a lot of mumbo jumbo that doesn't apply. So when I find those answers, then I can turn that into content that I can then share.
Yeah, totally. I actually really like that one. Anytime that there's information I need for any niche that I have a site on, and I can't find that in a good, easy, digestible format, that's like a perfect opportunity to create content. So again, I'll make a note like, oh, make sure that I make an article about, replacing this belt on this particular ATV model or whatever it is, right?
Yeah.
Make sure I make an article about that. And then when I actually go to do that maintenance on the ATV, set up your phone or a GoPro or whatever on a tripod, or at least, right? And let's get some video of it. Let's try to get close-up shots of the specific things you have to do, because we can turn that into really good content. In our case, we're gonna do YouTube, which is great. But even for those bloggers who don't want to build a YouTube channel, if they're doing something that's visual, like getting those video clips and then hosting those videos on YouTube, we can embed them in our articles and make the content way better.
Yeah, if a picture's 1,000 words,
Yeah.
how many words are in a video?
Well, there's like 60 frames in a second, so that's a lot of pictures.
I'm not good at math, but it sounds like a lot.
Another really fun way to do content that actually makes for really good content is testing. Sometimes people get kind of caught up when I say, yeah, do some testing, like get some products or something, and they're like, I can't spend thousands of dollars on product.
Yeah, right.
But I'm talking about like testing even inexpensive things. Like people oftentimes will go on Amazon and be like, I found like a $10 version of this, but the $80 name brand one, I don't know, that's the one everybody talks about. And so they just don't know.
Right.
And so if you can just do some product testing to show the differences or something, that could be a cool way to go.
Right. Yeah, a lot of the expensive stuff on the market, I feel like it's not expensive because the product's that much better, but because they spent all that money on an advertising campaign. And I don't necessarily want to pay for their advertising. I'm just paying for the product. And if this cheap one's going to work just as well, or even half as well, but it's a quarter the cost, I can help people weigh that decision. And yeah, if you're using it only a couple of times a year, you're not a professional using it day in, day out, maybe the one that's a quarter the cost will do just fine. You know, that reminds me, I recently got a cell phone mount for my ATV.
Yeah.
There were a couple things I needed it to do. I wanted it to first hold the phone, make sure it doesn't fall off, even going over big bumps and whatnot. But another thing is I needed it to be able to charge my phone, because a lot of times I'm out for 6, 8+ hours, maybe even days at a time if I went camping on the ATV.
Yeah.
So I wanted it to be able to charge while it's sitting in the mount, and with QI technology, that's totally feasible as long as it's wired into the electrical. So I went online, did a little bit of research, and on Amazon there was a huge range of ones available, going all the way from $10-15 all the way into the hundreds of dollar price range. And if it does the same thing, I'd be more than happy with the cheaper option than the more expensive. So yeah, I got the cheap one, put it on. It's worked great for 6 months now. It's been out in the weather. I have it out in the rain sometimes, and the electrical hasn't been an issue. But it does the exact same thing as these more expensive models that keep coming across my YouTube ads.
Then that's the perfect kind of thing you can share in a blog post, in a YouTube video, because people are going to do some research, like, what's the best phone charger, whatever. If we can get that content in front of them, and again, YouTube's a perfect place for this, but where you can show, like, I've used this product for 6 months and it still works great. And even if it broke, I could buy 5 of these instead of 1 of those.
Totally.
It's
especially something on an ATV. If I ended up rolling it or something, it would just snap off. They're plastic parts, even the expensive ones. Right.
Yeah. See, and then at some point, if when you had more money potentially to spend, you could go buy a $100 one and compare them side by side and show, is it better? And maybe it actually is, but is it better, and what is it about it that's better? And do you even need the things that are better?
Yeah.
And that could be a really cool way to do sort of product testing. So it can be done super cheap, but it's still a great affiliate opportunity. Yeah. And you sell enough $15 phone mounts that it helps with the income. And you do that kind of stuff enough and you build a lot of trust.
Well, and I'd rather build trust with my audience and not just sell them the thing, the product that gets me the most. Yeah, exactly. I know that there's advertising dollars in those, and those companies would be happy to pay me for it.
They might even sponsor a video and everything. But
yeah, but I really want the audience to be able to trust my recommendations and to not have to go buy all the most expensive things just to be able to get out on the trail.
Exactly.
So what if I'm talking about something that's not that terribly interesting? It's great information, something that people need, but it's hard to really dive into it and stay interested in a long enough period of time to really get through the article.
It's easy to say, get immersed in it when it's something like off-roading and it's something that you love to do.
Right.
We've worked on a lot of websites that we own that are just not that exciting. There are a couple of things I would say. The first thing is, again, depending on what the topic is, sometimes you can kind of go down rabbit holes and do some deep dives to find things that are new, other people haven't really talked about yet. Julia was telling me, because she had a blog about education, testing out of classes, that sort of thing. And one day she came across something that ended up making her really excited to write about that content, because it was something that was new to her and that she hadn't seen anybody else talk about online.
Okay.
So if you can find those things just because you're immersing yourself deep enough and you can make a connection that other people haven't made online, that can be incredibly motivating. But then how do you get yourself to do the deep dive when it's not that exciting to you? That's the bigger trick. And I think the most important and the most valuable thing we can do there is to go back to your why. Why am I creating this blog in the first place? We have a website about patent law, right? It is not fun for me to write about because I am not a patent lawyer. And so for me, the only benefit to that site basically is maybe a little bit of affiliate commission, some ads. But if I were a patent attorney and I owned that website, working on it might not be exciting, but what's the trade-off? When I work on that site, I'm working on content that's gonna generate leads. So now I don't have to pay for these marketing campaigns. So I'm literally saving thousands of dollars and driving leads to my business, even though I don't have to pay for it, right? I'm getting these leads for free. That can be incredibly motivating. It could be like, yes, I'm making a blog. It's not exciting. It's on a topic that I don't love. Or maybe it's what I do for my 9-to-5 job too. But by having the blog, I'm turning more of my income passive. So someday I don't have to do the job 8 hours a day or 10 or 12 hours a day as it is for a lot of people these days.
Yeah.
So remembering the reason why can do a lot to help you stay motivated. And then I would say just break it up into small enough chunks. If it's like, you know what, this is what I do in my normal 9-to-5, but I can give it 30 minutes every day, or I can give it an hour a day.
Break it up into manageable chunks.
That can be enough, especially if it's on a topic that you do know a lot about because it's your job or whatever. You're not gonna have to spend as much time doing original research to come up with content to write about. So in those cases, it's oftentimes just like, all right, my normal workday's over. I'm just extending it by 30 minutes to sit down and outline a blog post, and then tomorrow I'll fill in the rest of it. And in the course of 2 days, you have an extra blog post. And you do that enough times, day after day, and eventually you can have a great passive income that replaces the job, and now you have way more free time.
You know what really works for me is when I lay out an outline and I know what I'm going to talk about, but I don't necessarily know what I'm going to fill in. Since I've done the outline, then take a day or two, put it in the back, on the back burner, and let the back of my mind start to do the writing for me. And then it'll start to fill in the gaps, the things that I haven't really figured out what I'm going to say yet.
Yeah.
I will have thought through that while doing other things I enjoy. Seems to be how my brain works, so I should use that to my advantage.
Yeah, anybody that's like has ADHD like we do,
Yes.
like that's kind of how your brain works. I used to do that in college. I would literally I'd do my homework and I would start each problem and I'd kind of lay out like, here's everything I know, here's what I don't know, here's the equations and stuff I know that are part of it, and it's late, I'm going to bed.
Yeah.
But I would lay it out. And then I'd wake up early in the morning before class the next day, and it would just come. Like, it's like during the night in my sleep, or even while I was laying in bed, like I wasn't even consciously thinking about it. Like I'd worked out the methodology so that when I came down to actually do the homework the next day,
Right.
it was like, cool, now I just have to do the calculation. The actual laying it out and figuring out how to solve it was already done. The same thing totally works for me with blogging. I just get these ideas that once I start thinking through them, it's practically written itself. Now, we also live in a day of AI. We can use AI to help us come up with great headlines, to help us come up with the subheadings and the topics for our articles, but we can also use it to help us with the writing. I think as long as you can word vomit the information out, just click the little microphone and just start talking. I think the Notes app will do the same thing on the iPhone. So many voice-to-text options. Get the words out, get the information out, and then feed that into ChatGPT and just say, hey, I want you to take this information and I want you to rewrite it with a friendly tone or with a professional tone. It can do its job, and what it's really good at is the writing, making it sound like a human who knows how to write. But what it's not great at is finding the information and being totally accurate. Sometimes it's okay and sometimes it's way off. But if you feed it the information, I have no issue with you using AI to help with the actual putting the words together in a good way.
Fantastic.
So-
Let the robots do the work.
That's right. The robots should be doing the work.
Right? No, but since I put my own real content in there, it's
Yeah.
not just making up stuff like we're having issues with.
Exactly. So I think with that, with some of the video and the photos and stuff you can take by actually doing this stuff, it's going to make the content writing process so much easier, but it's also going to make the whole project 100 times more fun. Go have fun.
I think I am prepared to write an article on the handlebar phone holder, so
Sweet.
go ahead and get out of here and I'll
All right.
get that done.
Well, tell me twice.
Thanks, Rick.